Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. With Halloween right around the corner, I wanted to do a video that kind of touched on the spooky themes of Halloween and to tell a ghost story from my neck of the woods, from where I'm from. So today what I'm going to be doing is telling you the story of the Wayside Inn and the hauntings that have taken place there. There is a very well documented history of paranormal activity at the Wayside Inn, so much so that the inn was featured on the TV series Ghost Adventures, which aired on the Travel Channel in 2011, and even before or after that episode aired, there have been a lot of paranormal investigators who come and visit in hopes of having a paranormal encounter at the inn. Now, this story might be a little bit spooky, a little bit scary, so that's just a disclaimer for that. Nothing too crazy in this one, but we are going to be talking about some paranormal activity, whether you want to believe in that or not. With that out of the way, I'm going to start getting into the story. So I would encourage you to find a nice comfortable spot, either on the couch, in your bed, maybe a cozy corner. Maybe grab a drink as well, and let me take you through the tale of the hauntings at the Wayside Inn. So a little bit of backstory about the location. The Wayside Inn is commonly known as the oldest continuously operating inn in the entire United States. Not just the Northeast, but the entire country. The Wayside Inn was built in 1707, but opened in 1716 as a simple two-room family home, which offered guests a place to stay for the night. So you can surmise that the inn has been in operation for well over 300 years. And it has served some pretty significant historical figures as well. During the Revolutionary War, it was a famous meeting house for members of the Continental Army, and it also hosted a number of famous authors in the 1800s. Some of the most famous names of people associated with the inn include authors Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. The first president of the United States, George Washington, stayed here when he was on duty for the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War. The Marquis de Lafayette, who was a prominent figure in the Revolutionary War, serving in the French outfit that was allied with the Continental Army, he stayed here as well. And Henry Ford also is well known to have stayed here, as well as to have established a chapel near the Wayside Inn, a mill, and has also helped fix up the inn as well. So you might know him from the Ford Automobile Company. However, the most famous person that's not exactly super well known, but who still is said to reside in the inn today, is a certain Jerusha Howe, who inhabited the inn as one of the innkeepers in the early part of the 1800s and into the mid-1800s, and is said to have never left. Rumors of the hauntings date back all the way to 1868. That's over 150 years ago, so these are very well documented. The Wayside Inn was initially opened by the Howe family and had the ownership passed down within the family through 4 generations. Born in 1797, Jerusha helped operate the inn alongside her brothers, whose name was Lyman, in the 19th century, as I said, and were the last line of Howes to run the inn. Now, Jerusha was very well known for her beauty in the area, and she was known as the Belle of Sudbury, and the Wayside Inn is located in Sudbury, Massachusetts. And she had a number of admirers and was well known for her musical and artistic skills. Jerusha famously owned the first piano in town, which she decided to place inside the inn, and she routinely played it to guests of the inn during their stays. Now, Jerusha, as I mentioned, had a lot of male admirers, those both in the local area as well as male admirers who came through the inn. And while there's no pictures of Jerusha to this day, or portraits even, it was rumored that she was very beautiful. And ultimately, she decided to become engaged to an Englishman who swept her off her feet when he stayed in the inn. He became her fiancé, and he was employed as a sailor. And he decided to sail home to England after spending time with Jerusha to make arrangements for their wedding. And before he left, he promised Jerusha that after they would get married, they would start a family together. Unfortunately and tragically, he was never heard from again after he left the inn. No one knows exactly what happened to him, but there are some common theories that float out there that either he drowned in a shipwreck in the Atlantic Ocean, or he simply just abandoned Jerusha. Others say he was already married prior to meeting Jerusha and was committing an act of infidelity. Nonetheless, Jerusha loved him a lot, and as a consequence of his disappearance, she decided to never marry, and she passed away at the young age of 45 in 1842 while continuing to help run the inn. No one knows how she died, but the legend goes that she died of a broken heart, which is tragic. As a restless spirit, Jerusha is said to have never left the inn, having yet to come to terms with the death of her fiancé. Inside the inn, you'll find a number of rooms that guests can stay in, including Jerusha's bedroom, which is simply known as Room 9. This is where Jerusha's spirit is said to still reside to this very day, and guests in Room 9 in the nearby Room 10. There have also been sightings in Room 1, in Room 4, and the parlor downstairs that have a history of strange encounters with her ghostly entity. During her life at the inn, Jerusha wore a very noticeable citrus perfume. Some could say it was even an overpowering perfume. And guests frequently smell that scent in sudden periods during their stay at the inn. Most notably, it can be smelled at the parlor as well as around Room 9. and guests say it is an overwhelming smell, that there is no mistaking that there is a citrus smell, despite the inn not using any kind of citrus scent inside. When entering the stairwell that leads to the first floor, first of all, if you ever go inside, it's a very narrow stairwell, like many stairwells that were constructed during that period. Also, it is a little bit dark as well, so it's kind of a bit of a creepy stairwell uh, in just by going down it. But when entering that stairwell, which leads to the first floor, guests have reportedly felt a presence on that stairwell, and that presence repeatedly sweeps past them, despite there being not enough room for a second person to climb those stairs, and despite there being no one else in that vicinity. Also, going back to Jerusha's love of music, the sound of the piano is often still heard reverberating through the halls of the inn, even when there is no piano present inside the inn. One of the popular songs that guests will hear when they go to the inn is the Copenhagen Waltz, which reportedly was a favorite song of Jerusha's that she played to the guests when she was alive. However, the most well-known encounters often occur to male visitors who sleep in Jerusha's bedroom. Now, guests can actually stay in the room that Jerusha resided in. That would be room 9 on the second floor. And you can actually see room 9 from the outside of the Wayside Inn. And the inside has this very, I don't want to say creepy, but it has this very old world feel to it. And you can tell it's been lived in for quite a number of years. The inn also tries to maintain its historical integrity by keeping everything the same as it would have been back in those days. So everything that you see within the inn is exactly as how it would have been back well over 200 years ago. Going back to her bedroom, many people have reported being awakened by her touch. She likes to apparently grab the guests' feet while they're sleeping, and people have also reported her rustling the bed as well over the course of the night. Perhaps most unsettling is that people have seen a woman who is dressed in colonial garb, who is believed to be Jerusha, that stands over the foot of the bed. And I would find that really creepy. Going back to specifically the male guests, as it's known, Jerusha is a bit heartbroken and she's a bit lonely. So male guests often report feeling somebody cuddling up to them in the nighttime in room 9. But when they feel that and they turn around, there's nobody there. And when they turn the light on, there's also nobody there. If you choose to stay in Jerusha's room, you will actually find a sizable amount of notes that have been stuffed into cracks and crevices and drawers left by prior guests, which detail their paranormal encounters during their stays. It's not uncommon for people that decide to stay in room 9. It is not uncommon for them to take upwards of 3 to 4 hours to read through every single note that has been stuffed in that room. There's a lot of them. And As kind of an ongoing tradition, guests are encouraged to leave their own notes if they experience something paranormal and add to the ever-growing collection of ghostly encounters. Despite being lonely and heartbroken, Jerusha Howe is widely considered to be a benign spirit that only desires some company. No violent encounters have ever been recorded in the Wayside Inn's history, and guests often feel a warm and comforting atmosphere at the inn, regardless of the paranormal activity. I can tell you, as somebody who's been to the inn a number of times, I can attest that it is a very charming and inviting place. If you do not have the courage, can't stumbling over my words, to stay overnight, the inn does serve lunch and dinner, and you can stop in the old dining room for some traditional New England fare. And that old dining room, like everywhere else at the Wayside Inn, is exactly how it would have been hundreds of years ago. So, again, Jerusha is not a mean spirit. She is not a violent spirit. We're not talking about, if you believe in ghosts, we're not talking about a poltergeist or any kind of, angry being. As I said, she just wants a little bit of company at your expense. So that kind of wraps up that tale. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a Halloween special video, but if you would like to hear more ghost stories, I certainly could make that a series if you wanted to, and kind of go around different places around the local areas and talk about that a bit. I hope you all are doing well, again, as always, and I wish you all a happy Halloween to all who celebrate. And I'll be back with another video in a few days. I've gone to some places recently in southern Massachusetts, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, take care and sleep well. Bye-bye.